Hello and welcome to Instructor 101 for outdoor instructors that want to make an even bigger impact on those that they work with. Today is a bit of a different video. So this is the first time doing a remote interview. So first of all, a huge thank you to Joel Self, who's an outdoor instructor who has shared some of his experience and his knowledge. We'll be touching on things like qualifications, how we both got into the outdoor industry, encouraging other people to get into climbing, and we'll be touching on the highly contested subject for outdoor instructors of what is better, paddling or climbing. So, hi everyone and welcome. So this is a bit of a new one for me today. So I'm having an interview with Joel Self, a freelance outdoor instructor based over in Wiltshire. And yeah, he's very kindly offered to be the first person to try out doing this remote interview experience. So we'll see how it goes. Like, fingers crossed, it'll all work out. But the main thing is hopefully we'll be able to learn a few bits from each other and hopefully with you, the audience, as well. So Joel, do you want to start things off just by introducing yourself, telling people a bit about you and where they can find you, first of all?
Sure. Well, yeah, like Niles just said there, I'm Joel. I'm an outdoor activity instructor. I work down in the southwest of England, and I'm really active on all the different social media, so YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all those different places. So you can find me there. But yeah, I basically work both freelance for various different companies and then run my own stuff too.
Nice one. And yeah, and what we'll do is we'll make sure we leave links to all the social medias and Joel's website as well in the description below. And if I can be fancy enough and work out how to edit it later, I'll make sure it pops up along the bottom of the screen somewhere as well. Fingers crossed we can make that happen. But Joel, obviously you've got like, I've kind of been aware of you on social media, like one of the few outdoor instructors that have kind of been just like promoting themselves on social media for a few years now, possibly a bit longer actually, before I started kind of getting in touch with you. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to pick up on how you got into the outdoor industry yourself.
Yeah, well, I took an interesting route to getting involved in the outdoors. I initially tried to go and take part in a college course to study outdoor education, but after a month of being involved with that, the course got scrapped, which wasn't very helpful at the college. So after a while dossing around and not being able to study it, I actually went ahead and did a trainee year at a place called the Pioneer Centre, which is run by AC UK. It's a training centre in the West Midlands, and spent a year there getting involved both with in-house training and qualifications, as well as some national stuff too.
Okay, yeah. So initially, your initial choice would have been to go through, to say it was college.
Yeah, well, it was just down the road, so it would have been nice and convenient. Unfortunately, just super undersubscribed.
Oh mate, gutted. Because yeah, like there's loads of there's obviously different ways, routes into the industry.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just really curious, like to like how they all work. Like obviously I'm no expert, so for myself, like I ended up joining outdoor centre straight away. So I didn't necessarily have any formal training, so to speak, for entering the industry. Ended up going into I did like maybe little bits of personal climbing. I started learning how to climb like a bit before, but I was mainly interested in like working with kids, and I come from like a lot of customer service background. And yeah, and then it was super fortunate to find a company that would offer a lot of training. And like one of the big reasons for me was like being able to move out of home as well. Like, I make no secret about that. That was a huge win for me because I didn't go to university or anything like that. But yeah, like if you could like if you were to like if you could revisit your own experience, like would you change anything about how you approach your entry into the outdoor world, or would you have like any advice for others thinking about doing it?
Well,
Sorry, loads of questions at you there. I got really excited.
okay. Yeah, I think for me, the going through that trainee scheme was brilliant. Gave me some excellent experience with real life clients, as well as lots of training in a real variety of activities, including some stuff I wouldn't have ever thought to go and get qualified in. So running things like high ropes, for example, was an extension of like the climbing I'd already done, but not something that I really would have ever considered instructing otherwise. So yeah, just opened up a lot of opportunities and different experiences. So I don't know that I'd change it as such, but there's definitely some qualifications I wish I'd pursued earlier, some logging towards things to get prerequisites that I wish I had begun a bit sooner than I did.
I can relate to the logging of things so much. I'm sure so many people can.
Yeah. Now, if I'd been logging all my climbs, for forever, I'd have been, British mountain guide by now, I think.
Well, yeah, I don't know about you. Have you had to do the whole like prepping for qualifications and stuff? When they ask you to prepare a logbook, have you had to do like days like just going, I've got to transfer everything across now? Like, have you had to go through that as well?
Yeah, I think I'm about 2 years behind on my mountain training D-log. So at some point I'm gonna have to have a real massive marathon session of logging. So hopefully I'll transfer some UKC stuff across, but it's still gonna be loads of work.
Oh mate, I feel your pain. I feel your pain. So what were the qualifications then? Because you were talking about things that you wish you probably got a bit sooner. Is there anything that stands out for you, your experience there?
Well, I'm still chipping away at the mountain leader. I was hoping to get the assessment done this summer, but it's not looking that favourable at the minute, given the little C word that we've got going on at the moment.
Yeah, the lockdown happening. It's halting quite a lot of plans, isn't it? Yeah.
Unfortunately so. But yeah, that was a qualification that when I started my trainee year, I actually was asked, what qualifications would you like to get out of your time in the traineeship? And that was one of the things I wanted to work towards. And through that whole year, I didn't really do anything that would benefit the ML. And so that was a bit of a shame, I think. And really, it's something I wish I'd got, a couple of years ago instead of still working at it now. It's just something I've not been able to sort of chase as quickly as I'd like.
Yeah, I feel like the ML was one. So the mountain leader was one which I put on this pedestal for a long time. It kind of seemed like this qualification which almost seemed out of reach. When I first started doing outdoor instructing, like I grew up in Leicester, so over in Leicester it's just pretty much it's flat. There are some like small hills, but like nothing in comparison. So when I first started off as an outdoor instructor, I moved up to Northumberland, and there's much bigger hills and hills up over in that direction. And I remember first going there and thinking these are all mountains. Like I'd never seen anything like it before, really, at that point. So yeah, it blew my mind. And then the idea of being able to lead people like I'm in that sort of environment and having little to no experience at that point just seemed like a huge deal at the time. Obviously, times have moved on, and after a few years later, like I've managed to get that qualification myself. And yeah, it's probably like for me, it's probably like one of the biggest achievements. I think I know for some it's probably like a smaller thing, but I remember for me, like I built up a lot in my head, and yeah, it's just a really cool thing. So I'm sure it'll happen, but yeah, it's a bit of an investment in time, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I didn't necessarily live somewhere right out in the middle of the mountains, so getting that time to go and do the training and be out there takes a chunk out of the schedule that isn't easily afforded sometimes.
Yeah. So, Joel, do you want to talk us through some of the other experiences? And obviously you've got you mentioned about the mountain leader, and that's something that you're working towards. But are there any other things that you've done so far that you'd say would be like achievements or like qualifications that you've managed to acquire so far in your career?
Yeah, well, I go really in on all the rope work stuff. I'm such a not nerd, and I love anything to do with ropes and being up in the air. So I've done various rope access qualifications, sort of IRATA stuff, which is industrial rope access. But now since translated that across towards route setting. So I've been through the RSA level 2, which is the Route Setting Association, qualification for rope setters. So done that, and that has provided a fair bit of work. It's really good fun as well. So love that. And I obviously work as a climbing instructor almost every day of my my working life at the minute, both managing a local wall and also taking people out cragging on the weekends too. So very, very busy, but mainly rope work stuff. So SPA, CWA, the abseil module for CWA, things of that nature were kind of the first qualifications I looked to get, and they're the ones I use every single day now.
Yeah, man. Oh, that sounds great. Like you said, you help manage a climbing wall as well.
Yeah, so the local council had a wall they put in a leisure centre about 5 years ago now. Unfortunately, it was struggling to make ends meet and was actually making some losses, which they're quite public about. So I'm sure they won't mind me sort of saying it here. But yeah, they made the decision that they were going to need someone to take it on who maybe was able to advertise it a bit better than they could, being a council. So yeah, I've taken it on beginning of this year, and it's going quite well up until obviously the current lockdown situation. Yeah, we've got a big group of climbers. We see about 260 people a month coming through the wall, some of which have been coming again and again, and some folk who are just starting out. And so really nice to see people at all different stages of their journey in climbing. It's really cool.
That is really cool. Oh, nice one. It seems like you have like a huge impact on that community as well, being a big part of that. So yeah, that sounds amazing. Really, really cool. So like you said, you're like a self-confessed not nerd. I love that.
100%. I'm actually surrounded by climbing rope at the minute. It's just always there. So
I'd say I love the setup that you've got behind you. I am quite jealous. Like, so cool.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to ask, like, so have you always had an interest in rope stuff or climbing stuff? Like you said, like, because I took tried to prep for this interview type thing. I went onto your website, looked through your about page, just tried to. So I don't sound too much of a stalker. So like, but it said like, obviously like you're massive into climbing. What I really liked is that it said one of your biggest achievements was Groove Direct on, which is a VDIF multi-pitch on Trivan or Trifid, depends on how people want to pronounce it at the time. I'm not getting into that. But obviously there's other routes and stuff that you've done as well. So, and some of those being, what was it, E5 6As and sport routes 7Bs, and including some first ascents as well. What obviously, like, by the sounds like a very strong climber, certainly a lot stronger than myself. Some of which, maybe one day I'll get to that myself. But what I really like is the fact that you point out that the achievement, or one of your biggest achievements, was that VDIP, which for those of you that don't climb, is obviously nowhere near as hard or as technically taxing as some of the other routes that we spoke about then. Yeah, I just kind of want to talk about what made you choose that.
Yeah, well, I think just to clarify, I'm not climbing super hard at the minute.
Okay.
My climbing is somewhat behind me now, unfortunately, it seems. But no, Groove Direct is just one of those routes that the first time I climbed it, it was a real adventure. Got a little bit lost, which is hard on such a well-traveled route. But no, it's just a great day out. It's really lovely climb with beautiful views. And sometimes just getting out and having a good day out is better than doing something really, really hard and really, really scary. Because although that's definitely got a place, and I really enjoy pushing the sort of pushing myself in terms of my headspace to climb as hard as I possibly can, knowing that the risk of a fall would be quite high and the consequences fairly severe. But I sort of like to put that to one side a lot of the time and just climb really easy stuff where you can get out with a mate in nice weather and enjoy an adventure. Really, that's why it was one of my biggest achievements. It was one of the first big mountainous routes I did, and it just felt really cool.
I'd say, like, That route is one of the few like multi-pitch routes that I've done as well, actually. And
All right.
I think it was like one of the first times that me and a friend of mine went out as equals and did it, rather than like a friend who's training to do like their MIA at the time. Just taking me and another friend out. So it was the first time me and him went out as equals, and like, we don't have anyone to help us. Like, this is all on us. Like, we've got to actually do everything as we needed. And yeah, what an amazing route. Like, I remember that just feeling like such an adventure that day, and especially night's move as well.
Oh yeah. Now that is a lovely pitch. Love it. In fact, the belay, when the first time I climbed that route, reached the belay just after that pitch, and it felt so tiny. And I've done the climb a couple of times since, and I always seem to remember that I was looking down through my legs straight towards the floor. And having been up there quite a number of times since that point, it's not that small a belay. I've definitely been on tinier little ledges. But the first descent, well, sorry, not first descent, that's an incorrect term, but the first time I went up there, that was that was a really scary little ledge to be sat on, but now just feels like nothing. But really cool, definitely worth having a look at if you haven't climbed it yet.
Yeah, so I know exactly what you mean about that. That stance. So I remember going up there and going, how is this going to work? Like, now obviously it's clearly it's possible, but it's experience, isn't it, and getting used to things. So, yeah, awesome. I've scrubbed down like a few questions a bit, but I know. So one of the things that I've always, I'm sure, I don't know if you get asked this. Let's see, a lot of your work is as a climbing instructor. How do you explain something? How do you explain to someone why climbing is so good or great? Like, how do you try and get around that? Do you ever find yourself in that situation?
Sometimes I do have to try and persuade people that climbing really is good fun. Because a lot of people approach climbing with a lot of fear of being high up and things, and not understanding the sort of enjoyment that can come from battling up a rock face or a climbing wall. So I think the easiest way that I've found to encourage people that actually, this is all right and it is good fun and it's worth taking up, is just to get them involved in a little bit of climbing. Normally outdoors is a great way of doing it because it feels a little bit more adventurous, and we can go and just tackle something super easy, that's really nice broken terrain that's not too hard to move over, but it just gets people like, oh yeah, actually I'm really high up now, and I'm not that scared, I'm having a nice time, and I feel quite safe. And that is sort of the way that I've gone about encouraging people that into the idea that climbing might be something worth looking at and considering. But in terms of like doing it in a dialogue sense is really tricky, because you say, oh yeah, it's really good fun to be really high off the floor, and okay, no, I don't think so, I don't believe you. So it can be a tricky conversation to have sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know I've always found it funny, like the rivalry between water sports as well and climbing. Like, is that the way you're smiling? I'm guessing like that's something you've encountered.
Yeah, well, you definitely just seem to get people who are like super into their water sports and people who are super into their climbing, and the worlds definitely do mix sometimes, particularly when we've got instructors who work in both areas. I know you're very into your water sports, but you also do some climbing. So, I mean, you're a great example of someone who likes both. But yeah, I very much, keep to the rock and to the land, I think. It's just not really my bag. I do a little bit of personal kayaking and canoeing, but nothing mental. So yeah, it's definitely a separation there between the two for a lot of the time.
Yeah. I don't know, to be honest, I wasn't always like doing paddling. Like, it's only in the last few years that I've kind of gotten into it a lot more. Otherwise, like when I first started, I was introduced, climbing was like my gateway. That sounds so bad. Like, but like my like the way that I got into the outdoorsy world. And then like found myself pursuing like CWA, Climbing Wall Award, climbing instructor, followed by the SPA, which is now the RCI, the rock climbing instructor. And so I pursued all the land-based stuff. And yeah, just didn't like. I bought into this whole idea that it's all about land-based activities all the time. I got drawn into that far too much. And yeah, like in fact, like that's probably something. If I was to revisit my own career, I'd try to address that so much earlier. Yeah, just for myself, because like I think there's probably a lot of stuff that I've missed out on as a result, probably because I've just been stubborn. I wanted like an unnecessary rivalry for the sake of it. So yeah. Anyway, I figured like having watched like a few of the podcasts and bits like that, it's quite cool to do like a quick fire question round. We'll see what happens. Like if it's quick fire, then great. Like, but like if it leads into like just going off on a tangent, then that's absolutely fine. So
don't talk about knots, otherwise we'll be here for days before we're finished.
So cross out what's your favourite knot. Yeah, so here we go, quick fire-ish question round. So, well, I think you've already answered this. This is the one that I actually wrote down. It was land or water?
Oh, land.
Here we go. Like, so, favourite outdoor space to be?
Ooh. It's going to be torn between mountains and right out in the middle of some really secluded woodland. Just kind of depends on my mood, I think.
Okay, cool. Any particular that stand out for you? Like, or any mountain ranges or like or woodlands? Yeah.
I'd definitely be making my way up to Snowdonia. I think that is just, if I could move there, I absolutely would. It's a beautiful part of the world. And I just really like the people there, as well as the landscape and opportunities to get involved in all sorts of activities. There's caving and obviously all the mountains to go and play in, as well as plenty of lakes where I can dip my toe into the world of water sports.
Just dip your toe in.
Just a little bit, yeah. I can't fully commit and go head first into it, but I might paddle around a little bit every now and again.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, no, I love Snowdonia as well. So I think that's probably the places that I've probably racked up most of my mountain days and bits like that as well. So lots of super happy memories there. Okay then. So if you want to try and finish the sentence then, so a good instructor always has, and you fill in the blank. A watch.
A watch, yeah. I think I was asked what's the most important bit of kit that an instructor can have. It's definitely a watch, because timekeeping is key, not just for yourself, but looking after your groups and making sure you're in the right place at the right time. So good instructor always has a watch. Definitely is the answer there.
Okay, I'm definitely with you on that. So I'm all about the watch. So I found that for me, like, I'm just all about the cheapest Casio watch that I can get.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You're on the Casio as well? Yes.
Yeah, definitely. You can't go wrong for £9. If I break it and damage it and it gets dropped off a cliff, then I'll just go find another one, and it won't cost any money really at all.
Have you ever actually managed to break one?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've had hefty rocks land on my arms before, and luckily the watch broke and nothing else. So that's been exciting.
Like, definitely, it's always like the strap that goes for me. Like the watch itself is amazing. Like, I know on it says, sorry, this is not a promotion for Casio watches, by the way. But like it says on there, it's like water resistant or something. But like, I've definitely gone diving with it before. Like, forgotten to take it off. It's still fine. I've no idea how it does it. But like for instructions, like, definitely having like something with like a stopwatch on it is amazing. That and maybe like a little light on it so you can see it in the dark as well. It's perfect, honestly. So yeah, doesn't have to be a Casio watch, but
other brands are available.
Absolutely. So going off from that, so favorite piece of gear or equipment that isn't your watch?
Oh, I did a whole video on this. I couldn't pick one, so I had to do 9. It's
All right, well, I'll make sure there's a link to that as well. Then I'll make sure there's a link to the video.
I've still got a moment to think. What's your favorite piece of gear?
Oh, I clicked on me. So I know it's like, so probably the piece of gear that I'm always carrying is probably like a waterproof coat. So I think for me it's like a Montaigne jacket. It's probably one of the jacket which I've had for absolutely ages. And just took a absolute beating because I used to wear it at work all the time. And it just got used and abused. Yeah, so big fan of that, especially like obviously here in the UK. Like I just always use it, like whether it is, even if it just wasn't raining, I'd have it with me just as a windshield or just as an extra layer to keep me warm because it just packed down so small. So I think that was probably like a big thing for me. Is probably one of like favorite bits of gear because I just got to use it and abuse it really. It just put up with it all. So yeah, that's probably where I'm at.
Yeah, spot on. I was just looking around desperately a moment ago trying to think what is the favorite bit of kit, and I'm going to have to say it probably is just climbing rope because I use it in so many parts of my work that it probably has to be top of my list, I think. So yeah, use it in the rope work.
Too much
Use it in
that background says it all. So good, so good. Here we go. So last one then. If I wasn't an instructor, I would be
either a tree surgeon or probably working in agriculture somewhere. Yeah, for a long time I thought I was going to join the army, but that wasn't to be. I just decided I didn't want to get shot at whilst going on all my adventures. I'd rather do them in my own life as what has turned out to be an instructor. But yeah, probably would have got drawn into some other sort of outdoorsy lifestyle. So definitely, yeah, artistry or agriculture, one of the two.
nice one. Cool. Well, that's the end of the quick fire question round. So hopefully, hopefully there wasn't any pressure there. but yeah, that's the end of that. So sigh of relief, maybe. But yeah, I guess like I realised that I hadn't prepped you for this actually beforehand. This wasn't like a plot or anything, but I was like, I don't know. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or ask to the audience or to me or to anyone that's actually managed to watch the whole of this video up until this point, which would be incredible. So thanks to those of you that have. But yeah, have you got any thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd like to share or ask everyone before we disappear?
Well, I think I'd just like to firstly echo what you've said there. Well done to anyone who's made it all the way through. But yeah, I think I don't know about words of wisdom, but for a long time, being an outdoor instructor was something I wanted to do, and it never was an easy road. Certainly, going to college and finding that wasn't going to happen, and the course getting dropped, and then applying to lots of places and not getting taken, and then finally getting a break and going and doing a trainee year. Working in the outdoor industry is an amazing lifestyle to have, and if you're thinking about it, then 100% go for it because you will not regret it. You'll certainly not make much money. I think that's very true, but you will have the most fun time ever, and going to work will just feel, brilliant. You will love your job and love your everyday.
Yeah, completely agree with everything that you just said there. Yeah, like I think what you said about it being a lifestyle as well. I think that can be very true as well. But I think that's the nature of people that are passionate about any sort of work. I think it becomes a lifestyle anyway. But I think that's very true of this industry because you meet very passionate people that do this sort of work. So yeah, nice one, Joel. So yeah, thank you so much for your time and like for trying this out. I really hope this works. But if not, it's been lovely.
I feel honoured to have been asked to do it with you. It's great.
So yeah, like we said at the very beginning of the video, I'll make sure there's links to everything that we spoke about, and make sure a place where you can find Joel's YouTube videos on social media, so Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and your website. And yeah, and as always, it would mean a world of a difference to me, and I'm sure to Joel as well. If you want to like, share, and subscribe, it makes a massive difference. It helps out the YouTube algorithm, everything like that, and it really supports us as well. But yeah, on that, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.
So there you have it. That was the first remote interview that I've done. Obviously, it's a bit of an experiment for me. So if you've got any ideas or feedback or even questions that you'd like me to ask future people, then make sure to leave a comment down below. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Until next time, take care.